Coach E on Coach Talk, a HME production.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Coach Talk. I am your host, Coach E, and you have just landed at the premier destination for business and finance advice. I'm excited about this week's episode because we are going to continue our conversation about scaling your business. I first want to give a huge shout out to Mike King from On the Mic with Mike for giving us an opportunity to have the segment during his segment on ESPN Richmond. Also, a shout out to our one of our sponsors, Exit Resource Realty, as well as the principal broker, Miss Tamara Taylor. Thank you so much. And then I want to give a shout out to Chris Watson over at Movement Mortgage, as well, for being one of our sponsors and one of our special advisors. So now that we got all of that out the way, oh no, we didn't. I got one more thing. How did I forget? Christmas is around the corner, right? And every year, Coach E partners with other businesses in order to help the community. And this year, I'm working with Exit Resource Realty as we put forth picks and snacks with Santa on December the 2nd. So if you have a child at home that would love to take pics with Santa and enjoy some snacks with him, come out on December the 2nd to Exit Resource Realty at 203 Twin Ridge Lane in Richmond, Virginia, 23235. It's the only cost to get in is one non-perishable item. That's right. One non-perishable item. And we will have a photographer there snapping pictures, and we will all be eating and sipping cocoa and everything else with Santa. So don't forget, mark your calendars, and you can always go to exitresourcerealty.com/events to get some information. Now that we got all of that out the way, I have a very special guest with me here in the studio. I have Mr. Don DeLegge. Okay. Everybody knows I do mess up last names. I do apologize.
I do that all the time.
And he is from Brightview Commercial Capital. And so last week we were talking about how to scale your business. And if you were watching, you saw that one of the ways to do it is by getting financing for your business. So I brought Don on so that we could talk about one of the major resources of funding a business as pertaining to his company that he offers. So Don, before we get into that, can you tell our listeners and our viewers who you are and exactly what you do?
Wow. So who am I? So started this company, Brightview Commercial Capital. Myself, I've been in the business world for over 50 years. And one part of my career, we bought struggling businesses, turned them around, and built a pretty large financial company. And so as I was exiting that, I said, what should I do with my next life? And I felt the need I could give back to small business. I could give back to my community, and started Brightview Commercial Capital, which really is an alternative to banks. Okay. And so we have access to a lot of capital that banks don't have. And a lot of times we can approve funding for businesses that banks decline.
Okay. Well, let me ask you, just because I try to keep it very simplistic, for those that are watching and listening, can you talk a little bit about alternative to banks, what that is and how significant it is in this day and time?
Well, so banks lend money that they receive from their depositors, and they have a lot of rules and regulations that they need to satisfy to protect those deposits, and that's a primary obligation they have. And in today's day and age, there was a big flight of capital out of banks in the early spring because people could get a 5% interest with federal notes, and versus having 1% maybe in a bank. And you also had some bank failures like Silicon Valley Bank because there were liquidity issues because of different economic events that were occurring. And so, as money went out of the banks, of course, they had less to lend then, and credit really tightened up. So come to the rescue. There is alternative financing out there. There's a lot of private equity firms. There's insurance companies. There's wealthy individuals and trusts. And they all want to put their money to work, and they put it to work and actually very eager to lend it to businesses. And so that's an alternative means. We work with that group of financing, but we also work, in the case of SBA, we work with literally hundreds of banks and private equity to get funding and make sure we get the best funding for the borrower.
Okay. So a lot of us have heard of SBA. We hear those three letters all the time.
Yeah.
Could you tell us a little bit about who SBA is and really what their position is with small businesses?
Yeah. So SBA was formed in 1953, and its mission is to help small business. And so there's a lot of programs that they have to help small business. They have SCORE, which is a group of retired executives that can provide great financial advice for free to businesses. But one of the big areas where they help businesses is as a guarantee for loans. And so while the SBA doesn't provide the funding for loans, they provide the guarantee for the loan. So that opens up. There's a number of programs with SBA. The most popular one is what they call a 7A loan, which can be used to fund real estate for a business, can be used to fund equipment and working capital, all those things that you need both for an existing business or startup business. Then they also have what's known as a 504 loan. That loan is, for the most part, real estate, and where the 7A loan will go up to $5 million, you actually could go up to $12 million with a 504 loan. And that 504 loan then really has two lenders involved to help you get up to that higher amount. And then SBA also has what they call an express loan. These are loans that are under $500,000, less paperwork involved, and they can close them more quickly. And they also have a micro loan program, which most people don't know about. And micro loan programs could be from $5,000 to $50,000, and that's very little paperwork, and they normally can close those loans in 3 weeks. And so, why would you get that type of loan? Well, the micro loan program is a 10-year loan, and so the monthly payments that you have on a $50,000 loan in a 10-year program is a lot less, which would help your business cash flows, versus using a credit card, which might have 20% plus interest rates, or even a line of credit for your business, which generally might have only a 2-year term to pay it back. So the interest rates are pretty low. On the real estate with the SBA, they'll give you a 25-year term. On most of their business loans, you have 10 years to pay back those loans.
Yeah. Wow, this is some good information. Now, let's talk a little bit about the borrower themselves for a moment.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of misconceptions out here in the marketplaces swirling about this business credit thing, and your personal credit never comes into play. Don't worry about your personal, just build your business credit. Don, you've been around a while.
Yeah.
And I want you to kind of address that, if you don't mind. Does your personal credit come into play at any time when you're trying to secure financing for your business?
Yeah, the truth is your personal credit does come into play. Especially for a small business, you're the CFO for your business. And so the lenders will look at how you pay your personal bills as an indication of how you'll pay your bills as the CFO for your company. And so most lenders are looking for a credit score in the, I'll say, low to mid 600s as the very minimum credit score that they'll deal with. And ideally, they're looking for you to have credit scores over 700. And so your personal credit score is important. you can have obstacles out there if you've had a bankruptcy in your past. If it's more than 5 years ago, they'll overlook that, so that won't prevent you from getting financing. If the other question that comes up is collateral. What kind of collateral do I have? Well, an SBA loan is what we call a cash flow loan. It's the lender has to looks at, will the business have the cash flows to pay the loan back? And so while the SBA has kind of a guidance for these lenders that if there's collateral, we want you to secure the collateral. But if you don't have collateral, you should not be denied financing with the SBA. Yeah. So you could come to the table with very little collateral. So if you have a good business plan, or if you have a history, your business has a good history and finances that it can afford to repay the debt, usually it's not a problem to get the financing you need.
So I need to pause here for a second. You all heard it here on Coach Talk with Coach E, talking with Don. He's been in the business for some years, okay? And he's seen a lot of things. And he basically let us know that your personal credit does matter. But here's the other thing that I always preach, and Don, you kind of backed me up in it. You don't go to the banks when you're in trouble. They want their money back. So one of the things Don just said, they want to know, how are you going to pay the loan back? So if you are someone that's struggling in your personal finances, and then you started a business and you're struggling in your business, then we have to have a whole different conversation. There's some things that you're missing, and we don't want to keep running to the bank and getting all of these inquiries on our credit reports that are affecting our score, trying to get financing, thinking that it's going to come out of the blue. It's not going to come out of the blue. There seems to be some other things that are in play that we need to address. But on that note, we're going to take a hot moment, and we're going to go to a commercial, and then we'll be right back.
I'm Chris Watson, loan officer with Movement Mortgage.
And I'm Tamara Taylor, principal broker with Exit Resource Realty.
Our passion is to help people build wealth through home ownership. So whether you're a renter looking to become a homeowner, an investor increasing your portfolio, or anything in between, Tamara and I have teamed up to help you succeed. At Movement, we offer competitive rates, down payment assistance programs for first-time home buyers, and a wide variety of loan products to help current homeowners utilize the equity in their homes.
At Exit Resource Realty, we offer a no-obligation consultation to help you determine your real estate needs. We discuss location, school districts, pricing, grants, and so much more.
When you're ready to get started, please call or text Chris Watson at 804-267-0542.
Or call or text Tamara at 804-519-7676.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for showing up this week for Coach Talk. I am your host, Coach E, and I have in the studio with me today, Don from Brightview Commercial Capital, and we're talking about SBA. This is a part of our segment of how you scale your business, and so I thought it will be best for him to come on this week so we can talk about some of the options that are available. Now, Don, I want to go back for a moment. I was working with someone, and they were telling me there really isn't money for startup businesses. Do you want to tackle that misnomer?
Yeah. So financing for startup businesses really is where most people can take advantage of the SBA. A startup business is a very high risk for a lender. Because there's no history there. And I've never met a startup business that didn't think they were going to be ultimately successful. But the reality is 10% of startups fail in the first year, and 80% fail within the first 5 years. And so that's a history that lenders know. And so, what's very important and what the SBA looks for in startups is, number one, you have a good business plan. And so if you can be very passionate about a business, but you need to put the dollars and cents on paper and show a good 2 or 3 year plan as to how you'll be profitable, and again have the money to pay back that loan. And also that, you know, when you put that plan together, you really need to go out in the marketplace and base it on a factual data that you can acquire out there. The other thing that they're going to look for a new business is the borrower has experience in that business. You know, you could love to eat food, but you might not be good at running a restaurant. And so they're going to look for that experience. And a lot of times you can get that experience if you're buying a franchise, because that franchise can come in and they give you support. But even in that case, they're going to look for you as the borrower to have experience, or you're hiring a manager to manage your business that has the experience that's needed. Because someone needs to know how to operate the business and make it successful. And if that isn't there, that's one of the key ingredients of making you fail. And so the SBA will help you. That financing is out there. Generally, most of the lenders will look for a 20 or 30% commitment of the funding that you need as your initial cash infusion. And depending on, and that'll depend a little bit on the nature of your business. There's some businesses are more high risk than others. And I say that for a startup because typically on an SBA loan, if you have an existing business, they're going to look for maybe a 10% contribution and maybe even less. If you're buying a business, the same 10% could be 5% of you and 5% from the company that's selling you the business. They can take back a note, so it eliminates the amount of funding that you need. And actually, the SBA made some changes in October. If you're buying a business that's like your business, you can get 100% financing.
Wow, are you serious?
What a great way to scale your business.
It is. It is. Wow. Wow. That's big right there.
Yeah. And so another segue on that, if you need to expand your warehouse, or you need to expand your office space, or you need to buy real estate for your business, as long as you've been in business 2 years and you're going to occupy 51% or more of that business, there's as much as 100% financing for that.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So you hear this now. It is not, I mean, as long as you are financially sound, right? You're really taking charge of your personal finances, and you have experience in the field that you want to launch into, you can actually get funding to start up your business. A lot of businesses fail because they don't have enough capital.
Absolutely. In fact, for startup businesses, I would say when they put together their business plan, they don't plan their financing to get them to that point where they are making money. And so they might have a good business and it's growing, but it grows at a certain pace, and they run out of cash before they get to that point where they break even. And so that's one of the ways we try to guide startups when they come to us is, okay, have you planned enough working capital to get you to that break-even point where you're making enough money and the business can support its own expenses. And that's very, very important when you're starting a business.
Absolutely. And I'm happy you touched on that, because we talked last week about let's just say you are a baker and you're selling cakes. And yes, you're making money from selling cakes, but your business may not yet be considered profitable yet, because you're still in the red. You still got more expenses than you do profit. So, it's very important that if you're listening today, you really gauge this, because it takes time, as Dawn says, for your business to really flourish and to look at being really profitable.
Yeah, it takes time to get the word out so your customers know you're there and you exist, and there is a scaling up of companies. So it's important to have working capital. As an existing business, if your business is growing, a lot of times you can't get inventory fast enough to keep up with that's perfect time for SBA with their Express program. I mean, that's $20,000 up to $500,000. you can get a working capital loan pretty easily. Once again, you show the finances that you're pay the bill back, and it's very, very important to have that capital you need for equipment or space or people, so you can keep your business growing.
Now, with SBA, do they always require tax returns if you've been in business for at least 2 years, or do they have alternative documentation, or that is kind of subject to the situation?
Yes. So yes, and yes. The SBA is notorious for an SBA guaranteed loan is notorious for documents, and so they will normally require 3 years of tax returns for the borrower. They'll want 3 years of tax returns for the business if it's been in business. They'll want to see financial statements for the business. And so they'll want to see last year's P&Ls and balance sheets, and then they'll want to see the current year-to-date P&Ls and balance sheets. And all of this, really, I think is a great effort on the part of lenders to make sure you don't get into a loan maybe that could be problematic for you, and you aren't able to pay back, which would create a pretty sad situation for you in the future. So they'll want that. Again, they'll check your credit score. They'll get reports directly from the IRS to make sure those tax returns you're showing them have been filed.
Right.
They'll validate everything. And so I know as we try to get in front of that for most customers because they're not used to the barrage of requests for documents, and work them through, gather all the documents they need in advance of what we know the lenders will ask for. It's a little less stressful that way.
Yes. So that means that if you do not have a bookkeeping system, today is the day. Get you a bookkeeping system. Know where your money, how your money is coming in and how it goes out. As a matter of fact, it'll be easier on you when it comes tax time. Your accountant will love you.
Yeah, today you have QuickBooks out there, and there's a number of great businesses in the area that are what I would call fractional CPAs or fractional CFOs that, it doesn't have to be very costly to have an expert manage your books for you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Don, you are giving a lot of great information. Now, look, I know that our time is, I know we don't have too much more time, but I do want to see if you could share with us some stories of success, maybe, that you've seen how SBA has kind of worked out in other small businesses.
Yes. So I thought about that. And one of the things I always try to guide people is all SBA loans are not the same. The SBA provides the guarantor. The lenders with SBA guidance can loan according to their best banking interests. So, what they ask for in an SBA loan can vary quite a bit from lender to lender. And so typically if you went to an individual bank, you're only going to get what that bank wants to do. So you'll find some banks that will maybe like restaurants and others that don't want anything to do with restaurants. You have some banks that will do startups with SBA, and others will say, no, we don't want to do any startups with SBA. And so that's actually one of the advantages we have, because we work with hundreds of banks and private equity, and we know who likes this and who doesn't. You have some that'll fund equipment 100%, and others won't do anything with equipment. And so it's good to know that. And so the story I always like to tell, and what gets me the greatest satisfaction and why I started this business, is when we're able to fund small businesses that have been rejected by banks. Or rejected, I shouldn't say banks, but another lender even. And so I have a fella, he had a health and fitness business. Basically, in COVID, they shut down all the gyms.
Yeah.
So he trained people in the garage at his house. And he eventually trained so many, he didn't have any more space in his garage. And now we come out of COVID, and he saw a building that was abandoned. And he says, I'm going to buy, and I can expand my business. Well, he came to me. He had gone to another lender and actually paid them money up front, $6,000. and they didn't get him the funding. So at the end, he not only didn't have funding, he didn't have $6,000. So one thing I would stick in here: you never need to pay anybody a penny up front to go out and get SBA lending. If they're asking for money up front, go somewhere else, because if they earn a fee, they deserve a fee if they get you funding. There's no funding up front needed. But anyways, for this gentleman, we did get him funding. He's in business and operating today. We went to his grand opening, and it's not only did he expand his business, but he took this old abandoned building and made it an asset for his neighborhood. And so that's a great success story. And we have really a lot like that.
Well, Don, I don't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
our time is done.
Yeah, I could talk forever. You have to shut me up.
No, but this is some good information though. But for those that are watching and listening, how do they reach out to you?
Wow, they can. I always say we're not like a bank. We're available 24/7. We answer the phone day and night because we lend all over the country and in some cases around the world. But they can give us a call. Okay. Our number is 804-715-0114, or just Google us. We have a website, brightviewcommercialcapital.com, and that'll help you get in contact with us. Dial us up. We're happy to help. Love helping small businesses.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining this week's episode of Coach Talk. Please make sure you like and follow us on Facebook at Coach Talk Shows on Facebook. And that way you can also stay up to date of what's happening and the different events that's going on, and periodically get some tips. We love you all, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
This is Coach E on Coach Talk, a HME production.